What's up, everybody? It's KB. The Whole podcast is presented by our awesome partners over at Wasted Wedge, and a new age of golf has arrived. And if you are looking to be the talk and envy of your group and create memories with your friends and family, look no further than the lineup of Wasted Wedge products and merchandise. These Wasted Wedges are a blast to drink shots out of on and off the course. I want you to think your traditional shot ski that people were lugging around at your college parties and all over the place, and how difficult they were to store, how difficult they were to transport. Wasted Wedge is revolutionizing it. It's now a golf club. It's a wedge. It's compactable, can go right into the side pocket of a golf bag. You have extenders, and it's all plastic cups, so there's no hot glue. There's no glass that you actually have to use. They're the best in the game, and they're revolutionizing the way you're taking shots on and off the course. They're a blast, and you need to check them out. Go to wastedwedge.com. Check out all of the products that they have to offer, from the actual Wasted Wedges themselves to apparel that they have to the extenders and everything in between, to be the talk of your party, be the talk of your golf outing. And you can find them on Instagram and Facebook at Wasted Wedge. Be sure to follow them. Make sure you're letting them know that you're coming from the Get in the Hole podcast and Underground Sports Philadelphia. That's wastedwedge.com, and find them on Instagram and Facebook at Wasted Wedge. Remember the name, wastedwedge.com.
Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, your number one stop for all things in the world of golf. Watch and subscribe anywhere you get your favorite shows on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Google, and more. Just search Get in the Hole. Get in the Hole is the official golf pod of the Underground Sports Philadelphia family of podcasts. Now let's get right into the action. Here's your hosts, Steve McAvoy and Ben Pirro.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Because somebody in the middle of the night just decided to call the Saudis and say, hey, let's partner up and be buddies again.
Da-da-da, da-da-da.
Yeah, like literally, like play the background music. So if you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, considering you'll be watching this the day after it happens.
Oh, I'm getting this up ASAP. This will be
perfect
as soon as possible.
Perfect. So this morning, as we record on a Tuesday at 6:46, thank God by like divine intervention that I was totally gassed and sick from the gym yesterday, that I was like, hey, let's record on Tuesday. Because for some reason, everything always happens after we record these shows. So if you've been living under a rock since late, early this morning, Tuesday, now it's 6:47, Jay Monahan, middle of the night, calls up the Saudi Arabian government and the Saudi Investment Fund and LIV Golf and says, hey, let's partner up. And in a what can only be described as groundbreaking partnership between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf, after what has amounted to essentially a 3-year feud, has finally come to fruition. And I think it's ironic because the first week of the LIV Golf's tour was last year, this week, the week of the RBC Canadian Open. And now a year later, we go from Rory McIlroy calling out Greg Norman on week one to Rory McIlroy now having to rub shoulders with LIV Golf. And I would love to get your takes. Obviously, we're going to basically spend half the show discussing this. But between the fact that no one knew until after it happened, the fact that I had people in the golf world telling me at 11 o'clock, what? And how CNBC was the first people to get a hold of this, and how, again, Colin Morikawa didn't know until 11 o'clock in the morning. Wesley Bryan didn't know till 2 o'clock, till someone on Twitter DM'd him, and he literally tagged the PGA Tour Twitter account and said, be ashamed of yourselves for what you did. People are tagging Jay Monahan, putting up videos of when he called LIV Golf terrorists for joining a side like Saudi Arabia when asked about 9/11 survivors and victims. How like this, the tumultuousness of what has gone on in the last 12 hours, not even, is preposterous. So I think the tag below kind of speaks for itself. What the fuck happened today? I don't really know. But let's kind of open the floor here and see what's going on. Kyle, Ben, please give me your takes.
Cue the Game of Thrones. Shame. Shame. Shame.
Like, oh my God.
Ben, I'll let you start, because obviously, you know, your ultimate goal is affected by this today. So,
well, thankfully, look, I'm gonna have a lot to say. This is one of the best things, and I always said LIV Golf is the best thing that ever happened to golf. And now that it's going to be a partnership, which I think I might have floated that idea last summer. I don't remember, but I was like, that it'll never happen. I was kind of like maybe they could partner together, but it's never going to happen. I might have said something like that. My generation is now going to be taken care of in the game of golf. The PGA Tour has been screwing over their players for years. And I believe, and I have a very trustworthy source who I consulted with today on my way home from the course, due to all of the legal battles that have been taking place, the tour would have to basically publicly open their books, which would then force people to realize that upper level management, essentially, of the PGA Tour keeps just over 75% of the profits, leaving roughly 24% to the players, who are the commodity and who are the product. So they've been screwing over their players this whole time. And there's a reason why players are so sponsor dependent from other companies. This is why. And to say that I'm disappointed in the PGA Tour, I think would be an understatement, because I understand that opinions change. They do. You have the third most expensive sport to play. You've been feeding off of these one percenters essentially on the PGA Tour, one percenters in talent for years. You fed off of Tiger. Now Tiger isn't good anymore. You were feeding off of Rory, JT, Brooks, Bryson, Ricky. The list goes on and on. But you've been screwing over all of these players, and you were shaming the ones who decided to leave. Why? Because they wanted more money. I will never, ever shame an athlete for wanting to go and get paid. Because guess what loyalty buys you? Bradley Beal on the Washington Wizards. That's what loyalty buys you. Your career is like nothing. Like, look at Will Zalatoris. I'm sure he got offered a lot of money. And now he's sitting on his ass 2 back surgeries later with 1 PGA Tour win. And I'm not going to fault anybody for being loyal. You want to be loyal, that's fine. But the PGA Tour now is just screwing over the players. You basically shit all over these guys who decide to leave for the money, right, as they should leave for the money. You'd be crazy not to. And then you're just going to screw over the other guys who decided to stay loyal to you.
Exactly.
You guys are just... Look, Jay Monahan he's an imbecile. The PGA Tour has screwed over players for years with injuries, payment, as far as, like, I have one story where the PGA Tour used to give money to players, even if they didn't make the cut, they'd give them money. A friend of mine who I played with on the Dakotas tour, he played on Korn Ferry for a year. He Monday qualified into the Waste Management Phoenix Open. He's like, where's my stipend? They wouldn't pay him because he wasn't a full tour member. Even though he actually technically has a Korn Ferry tour card, he has conditional status. Like, you're just screwing over players financially. And this just speaks volumes to how honestly corrupt the game of golf is. People think golf is like this gentleman's game and you always tell the truth, you always do the right things. I haven't seen Jay Monahan do anything right in the past year, and I think that's being pretty kind.
Yeah.
And I'm only limiting it to the year. They should be absolutely ashamed.
I think it's interesting because there's a lot of different ways to go about this, and I have my predictions as to why this is occurring. But to comment on a couple of your notes, the fact that, and I really don't know if it is a stretch to say this, because despite the fact that no one on LIV really even liked Greg Norman, apparently he was kind of an asshat. To say that he was a better commissioner in a year than Jay Monahan was, I'd say yes. Monahan has not done anything smartly, has not consulted anybody on things. Apparently, when all of these rule changes and everything were being made, yeah, there was a committee of players and a policy board, and Rory was on it, and Tiger was a part of it. But at the end of the day, like, where has this gotten us? This all happened in January. They announced this schedule where they're going to go from hired purses to now limited field events to try and battle with LIV, to we're going to literally make it so that the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor. The PIP then became basically just, again, even furthered on to the top 2% of golfers. Yeah, and if you were basically outside of the top 100, you were screwed. They tried to compete so much and bend over backwards to make the PGA Tour more valid than it already was. And I'm not going to say that the product really took a massive hit. But yeah, you lost Brooks Koepka, you lost Dustin Johnson, Cameron Smith, Joaquin Niemann, who's one of the future players of the sport. And yeah, those were losses. But you still had John Rahm and Patrick Cantlay and Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, like Tiger was still there. You still have this core of people where you didn't have to do a lot to keep people engaged on the PGA Tour. You already knew where the product was. The reason why guys left for LIV Golf in the first place, the McDowells, the Poulters, the Westwoods, the Sturgios, you're in your 50s. The competition is stiffer than it's ever been. Literally, in the entire history of golf, there is at least 100 players every single week who can win an event. 20 years ago, you couldn't say that. When Tiger Woods was a rookie, there were 6 guys in the field who had a shot, and everyone else was a long shot. Now we're at a point where there's 30, 40, 50 guys who can constantly tee it up and win on any given week. They tried to bend over backwards, and I think and a lot of people who I've talked to over the last 9-10 hours have said it could very well have been a possibility that the PGA Tour was trying to basically break the bank so much to keep everybody that they almost basically ran out of money, and the only way to go at this point was to go to the people who got you there, essentially, the people who you danced against to try and outcompete, who happened to have the unlimited budget, who literally said 12 months ago, we're not going to make a cent. The company who uses blood money, and you know what, I'm going to disregard the idea that it's the Saudis behind all of this, because at the end of the day, we're looking at the entity, not the person supplying it. Mm-hmm. But it was the people who commit human rights violations, who created a better product in 2 weeks than you created in 30 years, coverage-wise. It was free to watch. They teamed up with the CW and basically said, we're going to make zero money because we at least want to put our name out there and give somebody something to watch, where you can watch 50 golfers every single shot. They tried to bring a team aspect. They lessened the rounds to try and make it more impactful and make every single shot count. They actually made a better product, and the PGA Tour could not get behind it. And now we're going to introduce the team game, apparently, to the PGA Tour now, in whatever new thing is going to come about. After the moral high ground that Jay Monahan tried to establish for years, now gets brushed to the side, because all of a sudden, it's no longer Cameron Smith making $600 million in a signing bonus. It's now, we'll give Jay Monahan all the money he wants, and we'll just get a couple of guys on the board. That's all it takes. So now he has billions of dollars to work with. I think it's embarrassing that Jay Monahan did what he did, and the fact that he didn't even consult the ones who were the most important in this whole thing. How do you not go to Tiger Woods and Rory McAvoy and Colin Morikawa and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this? Like, and to your point, what's loyalty? Hideki Matsuyama 7 months ago said, oh yeah, I turned down $300 million from LIV Golf to stay on the PGA Tour because as a Japanese native, the one thing that is instilled in me as a young kid is loyalty. What good is that?
Let's also not forget Tiger Woods got offered allegedly $700 to $800 million to join LIV and turned it down.
So what's going to happen now that Cameron Smith made $400 million and everyone else got fuck all? Like, damages are going to happen? We had PGA Tour players, I forget who it was, tweeted out that he talked to, I think it was Rex Hogard, said, I talked to multiple PGA Tour players in the last 6 hours, literally asking, can we sue against this? No one wants it. They literally said, this is the split. If you go, you go. If you stay, you stay. And that's how it should be. And I can only imagine what's going to happen in a couple of weeks when this whole thing gets reinvigorated and all of a sudden Dustin Johnson gets his tour card back and he's playing at what, the Rocket Mortgage Classic, and everyone's like, why the fuck is this guy here? This guy left. He took $400 million. What, like, Colin Morikawa could have made $500 million. What's going to happen to this? These guys are going to expect some sort of compensation. And you know what?
DJ's there to recruit for the 4 aces. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. At this point, like, it's ridiculous. Now, like, I have a lot of predictions. I have a lot of thoughts. I was basically scrambling for about 2 hours in the morning, like jotting up why this could have happened. And
I do real quick have the reaction. I wanted to bring this up because it is not like he's one of our hashtag guys on this podcast, Steve. Gabby Herzig from Sports Illustrated tweeted this text screenshot from Sahith Tagala. She said, reaction from him, players just an absolute shock. This is the text message. It says, just craziness. I mean, I'm sure there's a reason for it, but it's not going to be good enough reason for the utter lack of communication. I mean, how are top 10 players in the world finding out on Twitter? But I'm biting my tongue till there's more stuff we hear. No players are going to be okay with this.
Yeah, and I saw a few tweets. Todd Lewis said, this was such a secretive deal made by the PGA Tour. Players found out just today, including Rory McIlroy, who sits on the tour policy board. So you're telling me that nobody, even on the board of directors, had any clue of this? Like absolutely ridiculous. Tiger Woods was unaware until this morning. Actually, this is a really interesting one. Dan Rappaport tweeted out, he asked a bunch of PGA Tour players today, how will Jay Monahan survive this? One said he won't. He simply can't.
Also, I think shout out to Dan Rappaport. Unfortunate for him that all of this happens during his wedding week. T's and P's to Dan Rappaport.
Honey, I'll be at the wedding, but I won't be there for anything else. I'll be too busy on a flight to go console Matt Fitzpatrick as we try and figure this stuff out. I also think it was really funny. Like there were a lot of really funny reactions to this, including Brooks Koepka, who literally tweeted out, "Can we get a check-in on Brandel Chambly?"
Yeah.
Who then
Did
about
you
a
see
half
Max
hour...
Homa's tweet?
What do you say?
Oh, it's great. He
Chambly tweeted out later. He goes, "This is the saddest day in golf history." But like, I think it's funny because like there are a lot of guys who are like really pissed off about what's going on. More so, not that because and look, it's already been well established that a lot of these guys didn't care about LIV to begin with. It was like, okay, like they go, but like we're still friendly with them. Like Rory McIlroy played a practice round with Brooks and with DJ at the Masters. Like they're all still friendly. I think the biggest thing was that the fact that it was so secretive from Jay Monahan's side, and now it's what happens to these players who tried to stay loyal and all of a sudden get literally bent over because now you have guys like Harold Varner who made $180 million by literally putting pen on paper, and now he'll come back what with open arms. Like I feel like there's going to be some sort of a desire at least from the PGA Tour to sanction these guys. Will it go through? I don't really know, but it's fascinating to me how with the merger, Jay Monahan and his entire office staff, all the board, are going to maintain control of the PGA Tour. They're going to add, I believe, the head of the PIF, who I would butcher his name if I even tried.
As I well have as that tweet from Pompliano too.
Yeah, so they're going to be joined onto the board, so they will help oversee. This new group is going to merge the PGA, the DP World Tour, which formerly was the European Tour, and LIV Golf. So all these things are going to come down, and it's all going to fall under the PGA Tour umbrella. I don't believe it'll be called the PGA Tour anymore. I think it'll be something else. But in essence, now we're creating a worldwide tour. I think this also opens a can of worms to a lot of things, and this kind of digs into what I was looking at this morning. I ran some numbers, and I want to get like your thoughts on this because I think it's something that's certainly possible with the way we're kind of heading here. So because of the lawsuits that were going on between the LIV golfers, LIV Golf in general against the PGA, obviously now litigation gets squashed because it's a merger. But now you're kind of faced with a new situation. Obviously, the lawsuits were based around the idea that PGA Tour is a monopoly. Well, now you're merging the only 3 most prominent tours in the world, technically speaking, if you really want to count LIV as a higher echelon to what was like the Asian circuit or the Latin American circuit. Technically, it really is because it did have those top players. But you're going to merge the 2 premier tours in America in America and Europe, and now you're going to bring on LIV, which is going to basically create a super, again, worldwide tour almost. I feel like schedules are going to change. They're going to try and make it a more worldwide event. But now you have this new antitrust suit possibly against you from the government if they try and get involved and say, hey, like, what's going to go on here? I brought up this idea, and I think it's a fascinating one. So first of all, in the press release that was released by the PGA Tour, Greg Norman was nowhere to be found. Was not in any of the quotes. It was only Jay Monahan. So I'm under the assumption right now that Jay Monahan will retain everything, and Greg Norman's getting ousted. Which is probably one of the pieces to this was the idea that he's gone, Jay Monahan takes over. Essentially, now unifying it means that they're going to bring on the team aspect. Whether or not we see 3 or 4 round events is to be seen. It'll probably wind up being 4 because, of course, the World Golf Rankings has their own way of going about things, and you don't want to screw over anybody in that regard. If you break away and created 3 rounds, that would also just kind of throw everything off. But the fascinating thing is that if you bring on the team aspect, and this is kind of the big thing I'm getting at, is there was already an idea in place from the PGA Tour to introduce sponsors and ownership groups for each team. What if we see a situation where now that we have the patents and all of the provisions from LIV Golf transferred to the PGA Tour, that we now see an AT&T or an ownership group of like LeBron James and whoever buy a team. Now all of a sudden these teams can sign players. In the past, the PGA Tour was obviously everyone was an IC, a independent contractor that would sign on and join the tour. Now what if you sign these players yourselves? We create a players union. Now you have signing and trading and free agency that can occur across however many teams. And it's similar kind of how NASCAR works, where they have their different auto groups, and every single tournament or race in that regard, only a certain number of golfers are a part of the team. So let's say you have 16 guys on your team. All 16 play, but only 4 or 6 or whatever the number is count towards your overall team points. And you have the team aspect included. You have this new provision. You basically are creating a mixture between what NASCAR does and how the big 4 sports play out, where again you have the signing, trading, and free agency structure. Because I found out that under the 501c6 designation, which is a nonprofit, which is what the NFL, NBA, NHL, and MLB all are, where you're a nonprofit that technically is also a for-profit corporation that can avoid antitrust suits with the provincial, that you have collective bargaining and you have an ownership group and you have negotiation and you have an allowance that the players get more rights, they can now avoid an antitrust suit. I think this is kind of where we're going here with this, and I feel like it's going to be a real possibility. What are your thoughts on that?
My brain always goes back to when this all first started, and I was bringing up like the comparison between Major League Lacrosse and now the Premier Lacrosse League and the PLL buying out MLL going into the 2021 season effectively, where the PLL was like the disruptor, LIV Golf was golf's disruptor, and turns out like sometimes that works. The way that it's different from the major 4 sports for the PLL, and it's something that we could see potentially, to start off at least, with the PLL, all the players who are on rosters and are in the PLL have equity in the league. So it's obviously a little bit different because it's a startup and everything like that, and it's a much smaller team base because there's only 8 teams in the league. There were 6 to start off. So there's no ownership groups. The league owns every team, which I could potentially see as a starting point for this new global tour, whatever it's going to be called, PGA Tour, LIV, DP World Tour, just because of the bottomless money pit that the Saudi investment fund has. So they could honestly be like, yeah, we're going to own the teams for the team aspect until we're ready to potentially have, like you mentioned, Steve, like ownership groups or something along those lines. Because I had this tweet from Joe Pompliano earlier today that I sent to Steve, Ben, but this is Yasir Al-Rumayyan. He has been named the chairman of the newly created PGA LIV Golf entity. He's the governor of Saudi's $620 billion investment fund. He's a chairman of oil giant Saudi Aramco. He's the chairman of the English Premier League's Newcastle United. He's a board member at Uber and SoftBank, and he's the right-hand man to the Crown Prince MBS. So essentially, Saudi Arabia now runs professional golf globally, and Jay Monahan should resign ASAP. That comes from Joe Pompliano. That's effectively in a lifetime, that's limitless money that they have to work with, and they can effectively be like, yeah, we're going to own these teams until we're ready to dish them out to corporate sponsors and figure out who wants to buy in, who kind of trusts what's going on as well. I think that's a huge aspect in this from like the corporate side of things of like, okay, LIV came in, they've been around effectively for a year in terms of competition and everything like that. Can we trust our own corporation to buy in without another disruption happening and like screwing with our buy-in and everything like that? So I think that's going to be something that off rip probably won't happen unless it is a company that has endless money, like you said, Steve, like AT&T or whatever. And I think it's going to depend on who's on this board moving forward and what changes happen. Because obviously there's preliminary info out there for it, but I think changes are inevitable with something of this magnitude. So I think we could see where it's just like the overarching, league is the owners with the team format of things until they're ready to establish that. Max Homa's tweet about the team stuff was also very, very funny. He tweeted, "Now that we're all friends, is it too late for us to workshop some of these team names?" and tweeted a screenshot of him Googling WTF is a clique.
It's true.
To which Graham McDowell quote tweeted and said, "If you find out, let me know, brother."
Ben, you have the eyes of like complete disgust. I'm curious of what you think of what the future of the PGA really is.
Well, you had a very long dialogue there, Stephen, and you're really starting to lose me. So
in essence, to recap here,
I got it. I got it. Look, here's the deal. We're looking at LIV, we're looking at the PGA Tour, we're looking at DP World Tour. My main focus right now, I don't really care at all about the teams. I think the team idea of it is stupid. I really do. Like, that's coming from somebody who genuinely hated playing in college. No one, it's a pain in the ass. Okay. On top of that, if you're going to merge all these three tours, right? Because it's technically three. How big are these teams going to be? Are we going to have multiple events at different venues globally going on at the same time? That's very, very difficult. Also, how else? So what's the Korn Ferry Tour going to be used for then? Because my concern is that how long? Like I'm assuming if you're on a team, right? It would make sense you have like a contract structure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, how are we going to introduce these other up and coming guys from the Korn Ferry Tour or the Challenge Tour, which is the Korn Ferry Tour for the DP World Tour? How is that going to be implemented? See, I don't think it's necessary or vital at all to have this as a team thing. I just say, why don't you just have, say, use the, I don't know, you could literally have these three tours mesh together, have events globally going on, multiple events a week because you'll now have the funding to do it. You'll have TV deals necessary because the DP World Tour has, they have TV deals just like the PGA Tour does. And then you can still use the Korn Ferry Tour or the Challenge Tour to kind of float guys in there. That way you get more of a cycle of guys who get their card, lose their card, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That way you don't have guys who are on these 4-year contracts who end up playing awful golf for 3 years and no one wants to watch that when you have these guys busting their ass on the Korn Ferry Tour or Challenge Tour who can play. So that's really my concern. I think overall, this is great for golf, and I genuinely believe my generation is going to be very well taken care of. But this whole idea of a team thing, the whole reason why people play golf is I find a lot of people don't want to play a team sport. It can honestly be kind of a buzzkill. Like it really can be. Trust me, I played for 4 years in college. I know what it's like. It's not fun. Okay? So I genuinely believe that there is a way we can do this without having this stupid team dynamic, having 4 rounds of golf, having all the majors, and having multiple events around the world every single week. That way everybody can play. Everybody gets TV time. I think it's very feasible, especially with the budget that they're going to have now.
So I think there is a way to do this, and I think you make it
blessed too.
Wait, KB, you go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, like you mentioned, like Steve mentioned before, like you could have like X amount of players that are signed to a team. So say like the number, just as an example, is 8 guys on a team.
Mm.
Those guys agree to those contracts to play for those teams, and then you have the individual stuff as well. I'm wondering, now that they're all merged and stuff, and like we brought up, like schedule changes are going to happen. Like there's going to be a ton of courses now that I think are at the disposal to this new, Super League effectively. I wonder if there's going to be events that are just strictly, if you're signed to the team, you're playing your team events outside of like the majors and stuff like that. And then if you're an individual, you're playing individual type events. They're going on potentially at the same time. That also gives these TV rights the ability to be like, hey, the team events are on this channel, the individual stuff's on this. You have multiple, avenues to broadcast golf now, and then your fans have an opportunity to be like, I'm going to watch team events or I'm going to watch individual stuff. And I'm wondering too if this is also the PGA Tour agreeing to the team style of stuff, if that's their way of just more prep for, and this is coming from my lacrosse background too, where they're trying out the sixes format to get lacrosse into the Olympics. I'm wondering if the team thing is an Olympics pitch as well.
I think there's a couple of things here to unpack. I think, to Ben's point, if you have a system with players, you now have teams that are trying to essentially win, right, every single time. So technically, yeah. So I did the numbers. It was like, if there's 154 players in a PGA Tour event field, that's about 12.8 players total. So let's round it out. Say 13 players that would play. There's already 12 teams on LIV, so let's just use the 12 team like format. So you have 13 players on in each event, 12 teams. Then I guess it would be like aggregates to determine like team score. Doesn't necessarily like have to be about like team play, like Ben's mentioning. It's very much kind of like NASCAR, where you are still the individual. You're still trying to win your own individual thing, but you're a part of a group who's sponsoring you, who's giving you certain amounts of money. They're covering expenses. They're doing all these different things for you, where it's, at the end of the day, it is a team, but you are also playing your individual sport, because at the end of the day, your tournament performance determines not only your own success, but your team's success. So in that case, maybe you have the Korn Ferry Tour and the Challenge Tour kind of act as a developmental league, kind of like the minor leagues, essentially. Guys can sign players through there. You're not going to sign somebody like, let's say, throw a random old person's name out there. Let's say like Sergio Garcia, right? You wouldn't sign Sergio to your team to play every single week, because he simply won't get you far enough. So maybe the number one player on the Korn Ferry Tour is somebody who can actually go out every week and perform well, like a Justin Suh, who's now come up and has finished top 50 almost every single week on tour. That's going to earn you some points. So you pick up somebody like that, you add them to the roster, you have a reserves roster. I think you can also have multiple tournaments going on at once. The unification is also I think, going to create a more worldwide event. Obviously, the PGA Tour is a North American only tour, with the exception of the Open, and some players get clearance to go play, like the Scottish a couple weeks prior. I think we're kind of moving towards a format similar to the LPGA, where obviously they're playing in LA one week to Sao Paulo, Brazil next week to Singapore the next. So it's a constant movement across the world, and I think that's kind of where we're going at to really create a worldwide game. You're seeing golfers now across the world playing from Venezuela to Colombia to America, Canada, Singapore, Asians, from Koreans, Japanese, Chinese. Like, you're getting so many different cultures and races of people, Australians as well. that you can create a worldwide spectacle and have people watch. And I think that's kind of that's a successful point that LIV didn't necessarily get a lot of it because they were catering to a North American market first and foremost through YouTube and Facebook, where no one's going to watch the event in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, but plenty of people watch in Australia, especially natives to Australia. So yes, it's going to be a time issue for a lot of for a lot of the world, but why are American fans getting into soccer and waking up at 7 a.m. to go watch AC Milan play? It's the exact same reason why you'd wake up at 9 a.m. to go watch the Open, but now you get to watch the top players in the world go play at a brand new course you've never seen before in Singapore. Yes, the time differences matter, but at the end of the day, European soccer is still incredibly successful. Asian soccer is incredibly successful because of the reasons why there's still a fan base and people who are interested across the world. So I think that's kind of where we're going at. But Ben, to your point, the idea that you could sign players back and forth and create alternative rosters, and you might have like the A team playing a event in, let's say, like Eastlake, and the B team is playing an event at like Troon in Europe. You could very well have those kind of things going on and have multiple events, multiple revenue streams, multiple television deals going on and having a lot of opportunity. So I think there's possibility there. Ultimately, it's money talks and money matters, and I think they want to keep a lot of sponsors and people in-house. So if you can have AT&T own a team, and you can have, say, like Taco Bell or somebody own a team, or an ownership group like how you see with like Liverpool, right? They have John Henry, the owner of the Red Sox. LeBron James is involved. Multiple other people are interested. I think that like they want to get other entities involved, and I think that that's what will ultimately happen here.
Yeah,
I think
with the ownership group thing, I think it's going to take a while, just
of course,
because this is so fresh, and like I was mentioning, like these other corporations are going to want to have some sort of like framework of trust where they can like feel comfortable buying into this without any type of, loopholes falling into their lap and then that company being screwed. So I think that's going to take a while, which is why I think, this Saudi leader who's joining this new board it's an important domino for all of this, because I think that's where the quote unquote ownership is going to come in. It's going to be tour owned for, I think, a few years at the very, very, very least.
Ben, I have a question as the pro in the room for you. Sorry, you were gonna speak?
No. Go ahead.
So it's interesting because as somebody who's trying to get into the game and grow in the pro ranks, if let's just say, again, this is all hypotheticals. We don't know what's going to happen yet. We still haven't even figured out particulars as to how many rounds are going to be played week in and week out. But as somebody who's trying to get there, let's say our ideas where you do have like a minor league system and you can get called up is possible because of the amount of people that are playing golf and are trying to go pro, and the number of guys between Q School and the Korn Ferry Tour, and then even the affiliate tours below. Do you think it's feasible to get the correct talent that can be filtered through, or like how hard would it actually be opposed to, let's say, the MLB, where top players come in, but it takes them, 8 years to make it to the league? Do you see the same kind of thing, or could it be harder or even easier?
Well, it's going to be harder. I think it's going to be harder because now you have one tour.
Well, thinking about it though, from the idea that you have one tour, but you'll have multiple events going on, and an A team, a B team, a C team, kind of growing it in that way, where you do have a minor league system, let's just say, in place. Again, we don't know how it'll happen, but if there's opportunity there to have multiple ways of having multiple minor league systems to work your way up, is it even plausible? Or is the talent gap too big or too small, actually?
Look, when you're like a legitimate professional golfer, I'm not talking about the guys who are 35 years old that are trust fund babies, like silver spooners. I'm not talking about those guys. Like legitimate professional golfers, like you played at a Division I school, you're a productive college player, you shoot good rounds, and you've had a history of shooting good rounds at tournaments. The talent disparity, it's really not as big as people think. It's very minute. And there's also a lot of luck involved as well. There is. if you're able to find a way, oh, mother, please turn it down. Oh,
Mother.
oh, Deborah.
Wow.
If you can find a way to make guys be able to like have expenses paid for, even if you have like, you know, a single A, double A, triple A, whatever kind of model that, you know, A team, B team, C team, same idea. I get it. If you can find a way to make it so that guys can afford to do it, great. But you still have to have like a developmental league and make it possible for guys to get on the Corn Ferry Tour or on the Challenge Tour. That way they can get out of those teams essentially. There are so, right, like the thing is, like this is like golf for me and life in general for me. I look at everything like super black and white. Like I just try to simplify things as much as possible. And right now, there's so much going on with like what's going to happen to the teams. Like how's the schedule going to be structured? All that stuff. I think for me as a professional golfer, I just want to get back to just like the days guys just play golf. That's it. You know, like we didn't have to deal with all this political BS constantly. I don't have a problem with guys making a ton of money. I don't have a problem with guys speaking their opinions, do all that stuff. But as far as the political stuff goes, there's so much political crap that's gone on, and now it's filtered its way into sports, and sports should be the escape from that, regardless of what it is. Okay? I just want guys to get back to playing golf. They don't have to like each other. Most of the guys on tour probably don't like each other. They really don't. I told my mom tonight at dinner, I can count on one hand how many true friends I have made from competing in golf tournaments for the last 14 years of my life. Like true friends that I would go on vacation with, grab a beer with. Like I'm not talking about like, you know, guys who play for like shits and giggies like Steven. Like I'm talking about like guys who are like serious high level players. I just want guys to get back to just like playing golf, get all the political drama out of the way, and just let these guys be the draw and the showcase these events. That's it. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of stuff going on these next couple of weeks and next several months based on what are we going to do? Are we going to do the team thing? Are we not? Are we getting rid of it? Are we going to have multiple events going on at the same time because we're merging these tours? There's a lot of stuff going on right now. And so as happy I am for my generation, I feel equally as bad for the guys that are on the PGA Tour or like European or the DP World Tour who stayed loyal, and now they're sitting there just like, okay, like what's going to happen? Like what exactly are we doing right now? Because really nobody knows.
Exactly.
You know, no one really knows what's going to happen, and really the winners in this are the guys who jump ship to live. They're the winners. You know, they're not giving any of that money back. Like they're just chilling.
Oh yeah, and like, look, there's probably going to be some sort of like settlement payout. I feel like it just kind of has to happen that way, which would also be kind of crazy if Tiger Woods can make back his $800 million that he was offered. Imagine that shit. You're already a fucking multi-billionaire, and now all of a sudden here we'll give you in damages for not joining our tour $800 million more for you.
And I did see something earlier today too that like if guys want to rejoin and get like their tour card back or whatever, there's gonna be a fine. I forget who tweeted. It was like, oh, you want your tour card back? $250,000 fine. Enjoy the other $650,000 you took going to live.
Honestly, millions at this point. I think it'd be really funny though because at the end of the day, Jay Monahan is still the commissioner. Because of the fact that you have Saudis on the board, I think it's harder to do. But put them back like in the KFT or back in Q school and make them work their way back as the punishment here. Then again, it's a merger. It isn't like you want a war and all of a sudden it's like you can openly punish them like it's World War II. But
Wait, did you just say make the guys who signed to LIV go back to Q School or go back to Corn Ferry Tour?
Yeah, make them earn their
He'll be back in a week.
That's
Yeah,
a
honestly.
joke. You're joking.
Pay a ridiculous fine. There has to be some way of either punishing them to make them kind of work their way back and earn their stripes, or you pay back the people who, again, were loyal and got screwed over.
Steven, that is the most asinine thing. You've said a lot of ridiculous shit, but
Wow.
My mom was just like punishing them. Really, she thinks it's stupid too. You are unbelievable. You're gonna have Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka, who's won 9 events in the PGA Tour, 5 of which are majors. Hey, Brooks, guess what? You want your PGA Tour card back? You got to go to Q School and you got to go through first, second, and third stage, and then go to Corn Ferry, and then go to the Corn Ferry Tour. Yes.
You know how annoying that would be, though?
Don't interrupt me. You really made me mad. Okay? Like,
I love Ben being back on the pod.
You're unbelievable.
Christ.
I cannot believe you said that. And you're going to make, what, a 20-time PGA Tour winner, Dustin Johnson, with 2 majors? You're going to make him go to the Corn Ferry Tour? You're unbelievable. Like, you're honest. You're so upsetting to me.
How would you punish them?
I just sat here and said you should never fault anybody for taking the money, ever. And you're just going to sit here and you're going to be like, oh, you guys decided to take the money.
No, I'm not going to fault them because what they did in the moment was totally fine. No, I'm saying from the PGA Tour's lens to make the players happy. With the players who literally want to sue the PGA Tour for what they just did today. How are you going to make them happy? Are you going to pay them out?
You're never going to make them happy because you've been screwing them over for decades. That's why.
And here's my thing too. Effectively, the PGA Tour doesn't exist anymore.
All right. So now what's going to happen if, Kyle, like you said, the idea that there isn't another breakaway? What's going to stop Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy from being so fucking pissed off that they want to break away and create their own thing? They're already creating a new golf entity to begin with. Come next year.
Whatever. Who cares about that? Give me a break.
What's going to stop anybody else from wanting to break away and create a whole new thing? And all of a sudden now everyone jumps ship to go join the better thing ran by Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy over something that Jay Monahan's already fucked up, and it's been 6 hours.
Yeah, because Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy are really upstanding citizens, and they definitely have that Saudi-backed money for sure. Anyway, I still cannot believe you said that. KB, I want you to get the clip of my entire reaction and me going in on Steven. I want you to post that, okay? I cannot believe you just said that.
On that note,
Steven, if I could mute you, I would.
On that note, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We have a lot more to go over. We're going to take a short break. When we come back on the other side, we will, of course, bring up our friend Rose Zhang, who we mentioned earlier. Victor Hovland wins at Memorial, and the RBC Canadian Open happens this week, although it's probably the last thing we want to talk about this week. Ben, Kyle, Steve, right here on Getting the Hole. Don't go anywhere. So that was a 40-minute intro of me not even introducing the actual show itself, which is a shame on me, but also I kind of get like why.
Also making the dumbest take ever known to man. I didn't think he could ever outdo the John Rahm isn't clutch thing, but
you proved me wrong again, buddy. Congratulations.
You know, it could be worse. I could be like Colin Cowherd and just spew shit he takes all day long. Like I
think Colin Cowherd's great.
All right, well, Colin Cowherd has said some dumb stuff as of late. Here, but better example, I could be like Skip Bayless.
Oh, I know.
Anyhow, to actually leapfrog our conversation and kind of push over to what else is going on, we're 45 minutes in and haven't even gone over literally 80% of this freaking show. So Rose Zhang, I want to kind of run through all this before we turn the show into a 3-hour-long spectacle. Ben, I believe it's only ever happened twice in the history of golf. Once also on the LPGA Tour, and then once on the PGA Tour, I believe it was Ben Crenshaw, where the player making their PGA Tour debut or LPGA Tour debut in this case wins the event. How impressive of Rose Zhang to go from Stanford graduate, 3.8 GPA, summa cum laude, and she just goes and absolutely dominates this week at the Mizuno American Open. What are your thoughts?
I mean, she's a stud. I mean,
More than
you
a stud.
basically you go to Stanford, which is one of the hardest academic institutions in the U.S. You're a standout golfer there, which is one of the hardest things to do. You combine those two things, you graduate with a great GPA. I'm assuming she has a very good degree in something.
I'm sure.
I don't know what it's in, but and then in your first ever LPGA Tour start, you go and you win. Girl, props to you because you are in unbelievably rare company, and I hope it continues for her. What a start to what I hope is a very long and productive career, because she should be very proud of herself. She just made history, and that is amazing. That really is.
I
She's
actually stand
undeclared.
Yeah, I actually stand completely corrected. She didn't even graduate. She's only a junior.
Sophomore.
Well, yeah.
She's going to be a junior next year.
So she's not even 21 then, probably.
No, she's literally a kid.
She can't even drink yet. Oh my god.
She's an undeclared sophomore.
Jesus.
Is it possible to stay in school and play golf professionally every week? I feel like that is
Michelle, we did that.
Did she? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know most NFL players will only ever go to class in the off seasons because they have no time.
Yeah.
That's crazy. This girl's literally 20 years old. That's not to make other crazy comments, but
Great. Here we go.
will we ever see, considering the status that Rose Zhang's already gotten as a collegiate player, people have already said that she very well could be the greatest LPGA player of all time if her potential taps through. Could we possibly see a situation where, to give you kind of context here, she had a better winning percentage in college than Tiger Woods did. She won 11 events in 18 tries. He won 11 events in 21 tries. And she had a 1.5 stroke better scoring average than Tiger did at Stanford. In the same number of years too. They both also left as at the end of their sophomore year. Any chance that she could very well be the greatest LPGA player of all time, and possibly we might never see a player come back and win in their LPGA debut, or let alone even PGA Tour debut.
All right, look, dude, she's 20 years old. Let her enjoy the moment.
Oh, of course. Look, I'm not saying that.
Please don't cut me off. You do this a lot. Keep doing it. Well, just let the girl enjoy her moment, okay? Because she probably already has had a ton of pressure on her, because that's what golf does to kids. It does. I grew up playing at a country club, and everybody, if you can shoot 105 when you're 10 years old, thinks you're like the next Tiger Woods. It's sad. And it puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on people. And let's just enjoy this win and not anoint her as the next coming of Annika Sorenstam. Can we just do that? She's 20 years old and she has one win. Let's just leave it at that. I hope that she has a very long and productive career, but let's not throw out a title or anything yet.
And I think with the way athletes across all sports are in this day and age, you just see how much, depending on what sport, bigger, faster, stronger, the time that they put into perfecting their craft, there's so much more that just goes into it now that athletes in the prior generation didn't have. So you're going to see athletes be better performers at the highest stages as time goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, while Rose Zhang was phenomenal this week and did something that is unprecedented pretty much, who's to say, 5 years from now, we don't get somebody else doing it with a better score and at a younger age. It's all possible. It's not those unbreakable records in sports, because there's always going to be a next coming just grouping of athletes in every sport that are going to change the way that we view, talent levels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So real quick, so Rose Zhang ends her college career. These are just kind of the stats that stand out immediately. And like it's crazy because you could probably build an entire Wikipedia page around her accolades, like when you know how it's huge. 2022 NCAA team champion and individual champion, won the Pac-12 Golfer of the Year last year, won the Freshman of the Year, 2-time All Pac-12 first team, won the Augusta National Women's Amateur, won the 2020 U.S. Women's Amateur, the 2021 U.S. Girls Junior Championship, has the lowest career scoring average in Stanford history at a 69.22 in 58 rounds, so that's 19 total events, has never finished worse than top 20, had 18 of 19 top 10 finishes, 50 of her 58 rounds were at par or better, 31 of her 58 rounds were in the 60s. Her low rounds individual is 9 under, which happened at Pebble Beach, which is the women's course record and the lowest in Stanford history. Her lowest tournament record is 19 under, which is the Stanford 54-hole record and lowest NCAA regional score in history. And, of course, she had 11 wins, which is tied with Tiger Woods, but Tiger did it in 26 events to her 19. Just like, honestly, kind of ridiculous. Like, amazing to see that. She's also the first player in a single year to win the individual, the team, the freshman, and the player of the year and be an All-American all in 1 year. So to give you an idea of just how impressive Rose Zhang is. Next time we see this, don't know when it will be, but shout out to Rose Zhang. Honestly, could probably beat some of the men out there with gusto. I would love to see that.
She kicked your ass for sure, Steven.
Oh, she can. she kicked my ass. She would most certainly kick your ass too.
Yeah, she would.
Victor Hovland this past week won at Memorial. Really cool. Found this out. Went to go and caddy for one of his teammates in the Monday qualifying for the U.S. Open on Monday. So pretty cool sight from Victor Hovland. I heard this from, I believe it was Todd Lewis after his win. The one thing that a lot of people have been talking about for a while was the idea that Victor Hovland needed that one win, that one major kind of win feeling to get over the hump. And for a while, for about probably the last 6 or 7 weeks, the question was always about his chipping. He openly said, my chipping sucks. This happened last year at Augusta. Over the last 6 weeks, has put on probably the best stretch of his career. And now the immediate question mark was after winning at the Memorial, which to what he said of himself, it felt like a major. And then what Jed Nicholas said was, I was shocked the greens were that fast and firm. He had no idea it would be that crazy. Do we think he's got a chance now, following this week at the RBC, go to LA Country Club in what is expected to be similar, if not actually easier conditions, especially on the greens, considering the conditions from Ohio to LA and the jump that he'll make, to possibly finally get his first major and win the U.S. Open?
Well, the conditions are going to be harder because it's a U.S. Open, but he's a world-class player. He's one of the best in the world. You can never count him out. I mean, he always, any major championship he's going to tee it up in, he's always going to have a chance. And it sounds like his short game has gotten better. I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but it sounds like they have. He's always been a very good ball striker. Look, he has a chance, whether it's the Puerto Rico Open or the Wyndham Championship, the Memorial, U.S. Open, Masters, whatever. He's always on a short list of guys that has a legitimate chance to win. You know, he's never going to be a long shot. And he's not my favorite to win the US Open, but he's got a chance. Like if you said to me, Victor Hovland won the US Open, I'd be like, yeah, it sounds about right.
So a couple of stats here that stand out. He's 5th right now on the PGA Tour in proximity to the hole at about 34.1 feet. Between scrambling and his approach game within 100 yards, he's 21st in scrambling, which is the highest of his career to date. And on approach, he's 10th currently. He's gaining about 0.6 strokes on approach. According to so his stats right now, his top stats, he's first on the PGA Tour in approach from within 100 yards. He's second in rough proximity. He's second in right rough proximity, and he's second in approach from 150 to 175 yards, which according to Jason Sobel will be the number one stat to look out for, 150 to 200 precisely at LA Country Club. They're saying that the conditions in LA, because it'll be A, warmer than what it was in Ohio, and B, the greens in particular, everything else will be challenging, will be more challenging than what he faced at Memorial. But because of the way they are currently handling the grass and handling the weather, the greens will actually be softer, they're projecting, than what he had to deal with at Memorial. So take that how you will.
Don't worry, the USGA's got it covered. They're really good at losing courses and screwing over their players too. They got it covered. Trust me. If it's too easy, they just won't water the place.
Oh yeah, no. Look, believe me. Let's be honest. The U.S. Open is just even looking at the stats, the hardest scoring average on the PGA Tour week, year in and year out, and they try and make it that way. It's the lowest ever. Over the last 5 years, I think like the average score to win was like 3 under. Something like actually kind of ridiculous. It's always the highest strength of the field, always the hardest conditions. So not surprised at all. But to see Viktor Hovland finally get that one win, which he called again a major kind of feeling because of the strength of field. This was the third best field on tour this year, and it seems like finally the corner's being turned. Over the last few years, Viktor Hovland's made a name for himself as being the guy to win on resort courses. Obviously, his 2 wins at Mayakoba. His 3rd win came at the Puerto Rico. All first of all, not in America. So incredibly warm conditions and also incredibly easy conditions when you look at the wide openness of these fairways and how the greens play out. So it'll be interesting to see how he tackles LA. Does not have any experience out there, unlike others like Max Homa, who still since he was 21 years old, holds the scoring record at the LA Country Club. He frequented there a lot when he played over at Berkeley. But while Viktor Hovland played really well, other guys did not. Denny McCarthy had probably one of the most heartbreaking putts of his career, had a chance to win his first PGA Tour event, had only 2 bogeys in the 4th round. They both came on 18, and they came in probably the worst situations. Missed a par putt to win on 18, and then missed a par putt that ultimately gave way to Viktor Hovland's big win. Rory McIlroy, 3 straight bogeys on the back, took him out of contention late. This is a really great stat that I saw from Scotty Scheffler that shows how good and how bad you can be on any given part of your game. This week, he gained 20 strokes from tee to green, but lost 8.5 putting. He made the cut on the line and still finished 3rd. Just like unfathomable, if you ask me. I don't think I've ever seen anybody gain 20 strokes tee to green. I think since Patrick Cantlay won the BMW a couple of years ago, when he went to the playoff against Bryson, I think he was gaining like alone on the green was like 16 strokes, something ridiculous. So just unfathomable stats from Scotty Scheffler. The other storyline here before we head to another break here, Collin Morikawa WD'd after the first day. He has back spasms. Ben, as a pro athlete, have you ever dealt with back spasms?
No, because my cores are so strong. I don't have back problems.
All right, he's going to keep on guessing himself up. Well, if you have any insight, could you possibly explain at all how challenging it would be for only a week's break to then go into the major? Is there any chance we don't see Collin Morikawa due to his back spasms in LA?
Okay, look, so I said this. We had something similar about Will Zalatoris right after he won his first tournament. It was the playoffs at the FedEx St. Was it? It was at the St. Jude. Yeah. Okay. In Memphis. And then he withdrew, and I was like, oh, it's just a precautionary thing. I'm sure, he'll be ready. And then he ends up having season-ending surgery, and then he ends up having another surgery, which he's out for the year, I believe.
Yeah.
So I obviously am not Collin Morikawa. I don't know what the severity of it. I don't know how he's feeling. My gut tells me this is more of a precautionary thing than anything because he's not missing the U.S. Open. If he can play, he's going to play.
Mm-hmm.
And so I assume he's going to try to play. We'll see how he plays and if he's able to play all 72 holes. I believe, though, this is just a precautionary thing. The U.S. Open, No disrespect to the RBC Canadian Open. The U.S. Open is far more important than the RBC
course.
Canadian Open, especially it's to anybody, but someone like Colin Morikawa, it's very important. So,
yeah, Colin said following his withdrawal, he said he crashed to the ground, random spasm. It wasn't lingering. However, it was going through the lower part of his back on the 9th, 10th, and 11 holes, and then it came back towards the back end. Lower spasm, tried to hit 10 balls, hit my 9-iron, chunked the 9-iron about 95 yards, and said, yeah, I'm done. So we'll see if, again, it very well could be a precautionary thing. We don't have any word yet as to what's going to happen, but he was 2 back at the time of his withdrawal. So we'll see what the situation is and how we'll monitor it. We'll let you guys know next week how things are. One more final break. On the other side, we'll discuss who's in the field this week at the RBC Canadian Open in lieu of what is expected to be one of the best majors of the year at LA Country Club. We will be right back here on Get in the Hole. Don't go anywhere. Some beer money as well. You were saying something, Ben?
nothing. Don't worry.
So the RBC Canadian Open this week, we're gearing up for the U.S. Open at LA Country Club. But first, we have to go north of the border to see what's going on at the RBC. Rory McIlroy trying to defend his title for a 3rd straight year. We'll see how that one goes. Well, did we just lose that?
There's a typo.
There's a typo. What's a typo?
It's apostrophe S.
Apostrophe
Am I
S.
looking? Where?
Oh, I'm just dumb. Whoa.
Well, yeah, I was actually this is a perfect opportunity. I was just telling my mom that what I was saying was you always have one bad take per week, and this is the one. The punishing the LIV guys. Whatever.
Yeah. Look, you know what? No one's perfect.
Believe it or not, hey, for all those people out there watching, believe it or not, I am not perfect. Okay, I admit though when I'm wrong. Steven, on the other hand, does not, or if he does, he admits it like 8 months later, like with the John Rahm situation.
I will stand behind what I said on John Rahm at the time, and I redacted it after he had won 4 straight events in Europe. So I will stick with that. So teeing it up this week, a handful of actual top players will actually be in the field this week, despite it being the week prior to a major. I think it's kind of interesting to see how it shakes up. 11 top 50 golfers, including Rory, Sam Burns, Cameron Young, Tyrrell Hatton, and Matt Fitzpatrick will be in the field this week. All 3 top Canadians, Corey Connors, Adam Svensson, and Adam Hadwin will be teeing it up this week. Also, the debut and the long-anticipated one of Ludwig Aberg, the Texas Tech product, shows up this week. Immediate promotion to the PGA Tour following his #1 tirade through the college ranks. Just really incredible to see him blow up. I was covering him a bit in the NIL game. He got really involved in that despite being an international student, did a lot of international stuff when he could, and to capitalize on his abilities. Got an immediate full sponsorship from, I believe it's Titleist, I think is his club carrier, going into this event too. So starting off pretty strong for his debut. We'll see how he goes. He's actually, interestingly enough, he's like, I think 13th or 14th on the board odds-wise. I think he's 55 to 1, but he's way ahead of even some of the best players like Aaron Wise. Harry Hall is up there as well, Mackenzie Hughes. So he's in front of a decent cast of guys, I will say, for being a first-time participant on the PGA Tour. So anybody, real quick, that we should be interested in this week as we tee it up? Why are these guys, some of these top players, Rory, Burns, Fitzpatrick, Hatton, Young, Rose, Fleetwood, Lowry, the list kind of goes on, Thagala, why are they teeing it up this week despite the U.S. Open? Do they think that there's any reasoning here this could be a tune-up week at all?
Is that a question for me or Kyle?
Anybody?
Kyle, you go ahead. I've yapped enough.
I'm sure it's a tune-up thing, and I think some of the guys too, Rory specifically, probably wants his face on TV after the events of today.
I mean, well, at this point, honestly, at this point, it's kind of irony that he happens to be teeing it up this week with everything that's going on. It just kind of makes sense.
I'm sure he wants the TV time, and I love Rory, but you know, he was fire and brimstone to LIV, and then I'm sure he caught some stuff on the back end in his bank account for everything. So I'm sure he wants the limelight. But I think for the most part, it's just a tune-up thing to just get ready, and people want to be ready for a major.
It's interesting. Typically on Tuesdays, they have the beginning of the interview cycle for the week. And obviously what happened today took center stage, but nobody was on the interview train today. So we'll get word from guys tomorrow on a Wednesday, not your Tuesday. So only the day prior to teeing it up. We'll see what Rory has to say, but I feel like there's a good chance we might not see anybody taking any interviews considering the questions that are going to be thrown out and the hatred towards the PGA Tour that a lot of these guys might very well dish out, particularly guys like Rory McIlroy and Tyrrell Hatton, who are so staunchly anti-LIV. That might be quite a spectacle, to say the very least. Really quick, I want to give out some prop bets for you guys, presented by our friends over at Wasted Wedge. Couple of things that I noticed. One, no Canadian has ever won the RBC Canadian Open. Do we see a Canadian win this week?
Question. There was the Bell Canadian Open that Mike Weir won. Is it same as the sponsor?
No, this event in particular, a Canadian has never won the event.
Okay. That would be Storybook, right? That would be Storybook for sure. I mean, especially if it was someone's first win, like it was for Mike Weir back when there was I believe it was the Bell Canadian Open. I mean, that's Storybook, especially because golf in Canada is not nearly as popular. I think it would be incredible for sure. So
I think if a Canadian does win, Steve, we got to get him a Wasted Wedge.
Well, I hope you do know that one of your favorite golfers is teeing it up this week. One of your favorite Canadians.
Oh yeah, I mean he's the guy, and we got to get him a Wasted Wedge because he feels like he'd be certified for the brand. And Ben, I don't know if you've been on or have heard about our presenting sponsor, Wasted Wedge.
I've heard a little bit about it. I will not be getting wasted with anybody, that's for sure.
Well, they're great for on and off the course because it's a brand new way to drink shots with your friends and family when you're playing golf. From our friends at Wasted Wedge, it's going to change the way you enjoy celebrating drinking on and off the course. Think your traditional shot ski back in the day, how annoying that was to carry around at the college parties, at the house parties, all the hot glue, the broken glass. Well, Wasted Wedge fixed all of that. It's now a golf club. It's compactable, fits right in the side pocket of a golf bag. It's plastic cups, so anybody can choose their beverage of choice to drink out of them. You'll be the talk on the course, off the course. Check out their full lineup of Wasted Wedge and merchandise at wastedwedge.com and find them on Instagram and Facebook at Wasted Wedge. Make sure you comment that you're coming from the Getting the Hole podcast. Tell them that we sent you. Remember the name wastedwedge.com.
A couple, I've just realized here, the Ma, if you want one, you can have one. So after doing some quick Googling, the top 4 Canadians in the field are Connor, Svensson, Hadwin, and Mackenzie Hughes. All do have PGA Tour wins. So that means that I'll be pulling for Taylor Pendrith, who is still looking for his first win. I believe was the KFT Player of the Year a couple of years ago. I think in 2020, 2021, one of the two. So I'll be pulling for him. He's pretty high up, pretty deep on the board, 100-1 to possibly win this week. So we'll see how that one goes. I believe there was another prop that I had, if I'm wrong. So we had mentioned, will a Canadian win? I also said this, will Rory or a Canadian against the field? What's the better play here if you had to take one of the two?
The field.
Oh, so you aren't believing in a Canadian? You aren't believing in Corey Connors this week?
I don't know if he'll win. I think he'll perform well, but I think if you're just like straight up, giving the better odds, playing the field is a much more substantial way to win.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's probably deeper money though.
Yeah, but there's only one player that you would take against the field, and that's Tiger Woods. Even though the Canadians plus Rory is more than one player. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll take the field.
I dig it. We'll roll with it. Time for some beer money. Why not? We've already been running at this for so long. We might as well wind it out with our traditional picks for the week, brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer. You can find them at kenwoodbeer.com. Look up the Kenny Tracker, available in your local Whole Foods, available in many of your Philadelphia arenas and across the Philadelphia and now, I believe, New Jersey area, right, KB? Or they're
not just
they're,
yet, but
they're
hopefully
protruding.
very
They're trying
soon.
to.
They're right on the cusp.
Hopefully very soon. Kenwoodbeer.com. Go and check them out. Philadelphia's top light lager will begin making and missing the cut at the RBC Canadian Open. Either one of you can lead it off for the show, and I will conclude and go last with the group.
Go for it, KB. All you, bud.
I am going to say Webb Simpson misses the cut, and making the cut will be Akshay Bhatia.
Ben?
I'm going to go Brandt Snedeker missing the cut, and then I'm going to go with Webb Simpson. Yeah, Webb Simpson making the cut.
This is a fun one because we can just go all the way down this odds board, and I can just find somebody fun to make and miss. So let me find on the sports book. All right, so to make the cut, I'm going to go with. Oh, geez, wow! They only cut it off at so far.
It's
I will
not
take
a deep field at all.
Yeah, it's not. I'll take Eric Cole to make, and I will take Doug Gim to miss. He's been awful this entire year. I think that'll be an easy play. Top 20 picks for you guys.
I'm going strictly based off of name alone, and he's plus 450 for top 20. Michael Thorbjornsen.
I love this man. He's an amateur. He goes to, I think it's Stanford, actually. Yeah, pretty sure it goes to Stanford.
I'm all in on Thor.
All right.
Ben, who you got?
Top 20. My Thomas the Tank Engine man, Harry Hall.
I love that. Top 20 this week. You know what? I'm going to take a flyer here. I think it's a fun one. Plus 225. I'll take Ludwig Aberg for a top 20 this week. So we'll go with the newcomer on the PGA Tour. Top 10. Who you got?
I think I'm just enjoying names this week. So at plus 500, I'm going to take a little dart throw and go Nikolai Hogard.
Love that. You're really big on the Eastern European guys today. You got Thorbjornsen, who it's definitely some sort of like a Scandinavian name, and then Hogard, I think it's like Denmark. I think he's Danish.
Hammer it. Hammer
it down. Ben, who you taking?
Justin Rose. He's a stud. He's having a good year. Top 10.
I like that. Justin Rose is plus 190 in the field. I'll take the guy who's counterparting him at 190. I'll take Corey Connors, the Canadian, to carry the weight, put a show on. Top 5. Who we got?
Corey Connors, top 5. Plus 360. It's juicy. I love it.
You're juicy.
Shout out Canada.
I am also going to go with the Canadian Mackenzie Hughes for my top 5.
I like that. I'm going
drama in there. See if they can get that first Canadian RBC win.
There you go. Top 5 for me. I'm going to go across the pond. I'll take Shane Lowry plus 400, so 4-1 at honestly a really good value. He's been on fire the last few weeks, and he's always really good in tune-ups to majors, and then he plays excessively well at majors. I think he has 12 top 25s, 12 straight top 25s in majors over the last however many years that is. Our gimme plays, KB, we'll leave it for you.
The gimme play, we are going to go with, let me see where it's at here. Maverick McNeely top 40 at minus 140.
Ben?
I'm going to go with Rory top 15.
Ooh, okay, interesting. I like that a lot. I feel like I want to go with someone high on the board at just easy money. All right, a couple of guys for top 20 that I'll parlay together. I like Cameron Young minus 115 and Tommy Fleetwood minus 105 to both finish top 20. I think that's a solid run. Fleetwood also was really good in tune-ups to majors for some reason. Our winning picks, KB, lead it off. Who's winning the money and who's taking home the crown at the Canadian Open?
I am continuing the name trend. We talked about him earlier because he's pissed off about the transpirings of today at plus 3,000, Sahith Theegala.
It's a good pick. Wow.
I'm
I'm going to go with Cameron Young, fellow New Yorker.
Oh, I really don't know where to go here. For some reason, every time I pick Tyrrell Hatton, it always blows up in my face. I'm actually going to just take the really easy route here. Rory McIlroy is by far the best player in this field, and I am going to not pick him. I'm taking Sam Burns at 14-1. These greens kind of scream Sam Burns' name. He's been getting a lot better in those like colder northeastern conditions. His last 5 tournaments in the Northeast or just the North in general, between the 3M, the Travelers, the RBC Canadian, and any other major event that's been held in the Northeast as of late, he has no worse finish than top 20. And Sam Burns is only going to get better from here. I think a tune-up to a major is a good place to start for a win. 14-1. I'll take Sam Bermuda Greens Burns in this one. Boys, final thoughts before we hit the road. Another incredible show, another great showing, and another dumb comment from Steve. So what do we got to say?
Your flagrant idiocy is just off the charts.
Put it on a shirt.
Tell me how you really feel, dude. Jeez, like the hatred here is like massive.
Look, you said you wanted to restart the beef, and now that I'm on the podcast again, I mean, geez, it's sizzling.
I don't want to restart anything. I want to be your caddy and just tell you jokes. Let me be your Gino, please.
That'll be great, Steven. You can caddy for me, and then we're going to be in the same group as Brooks Koepka and I don't know, Sergio Garcia, and they're going to look at you and be like, "Oh, it's Ben Pirro. Yeah, his caddy wanted us to get punished and go back to freaking Corn Ferry Torque School. What a doofus." Oh my god!
The only person who would say that is Patrick Reed because he watches our show.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no one else saying
Patrick
it.
Reed. That is still under investigation.
Have you even investigated it yet?
Oh, I'm like Pepe Sylvia, and it's always sunny. And the more and more I dig into it, the more and more I'm convinced it's Patrick Reed.
Well, regardless, I think it was a great show, despite what Steven was saying. I think it was a very good show. I'm happy I could join it after my lovely dinner with my amazing mother.
Where'd you go and eat?
We had Japanese food.
Oh, very nice. Big sushi guy?
Yeah, I didn't really get a whole lot of sushi just because walking and carrying, and when it's hot and everything today, kind of needed a lot of calories. So I had some salmon, zucchini, onions, carrots, broccoli with white rice, and then we shared a little bit of sushi. So
awesome.
It was delicious. I even had a couple Cokes too, which I don't really do anymore. So
look at that. You know what?
Something to take the edge off.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of sport sometimes. I have one simple thing. I think that the merger between the PGA and LIV, I think, is interesting. I think it was handled wrongly by Jim Monahan, but at the end of the day, I'm wearing my shirt here for a reason. We can now separate the politicism, and we can separate all of the hatred towards everyone. We can focus on one thing, which at the end of the day is just golf. We can go, we can golf. Everyone can be happy. And hopefully we don't have another breakaway tour that's going to absolutely disrupt everything. Although I feel like for some reason something is going to happen.
My final thought, outside of subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. We soft announced it on the main pod yesterday, and it's very exciting. Columbus, Ohio. June 16th and 17th, PLL weekends going down at Ohio State. Myself and DJ will be there on June 17th. In between the two games, OTB Live is going down in the Premier Zone. So if you're in the Columbus, Ohio area, buy tickets for both games. That way you're able, because they're ticketing them separate games for some reason. Don't know why, but buy tickets for both games so you can stay in the arena. come to the live podcast. We're planning a whole bunch of crazy stuff for it. It's going to be a blast. Excited for it. Another live event under our belts upcoming, and it's still #up to something season for us as a company. So keep your ears and eyes peeled and follow us on the socials.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. For Ben Pirro, that's Kyle Bennett. I'm Stephen McAvoy. Enjoy the RBC Canadian Open next week. LA Country Club, the U.S. Open, another major in the books to come for the Get in the Hole podcast, and what should be a terrific event. Still holding out on that Max Homa. I think it's like 45-1 card that I placed like 4 months ago. So we'll see you then. Until then, thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, the official golf podcast of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Catch us every week wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and be sure to like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, and follow Underground Sports Philadelphia at Underground PHI. We'll see you next time. And remember, get in the hole!